Okay, so we have episode 9, Platonish. This was the first truly good episode of the series. The writing was good, the story was good, the pacing was perfect. You know, this is what I've been hoping for. You know, it was funny. It was really funny, but I didn't feel like it was wasting time. And I think that's ultimately because it was leading up to something very important. You know, that, it's not that the events of the flashbacks themselves have been very different from flashbacks earlier this season. It just, at the end of this episode, it was like, oh, well, that felt like it had a clear purpose. As opposed to like the thank you card or the wedding present thing. But no, I enjoyed every minute of the flashbacks. I loved the challenge accepted. I love how Barney kept coming up with ways to beat whatever challenge. And I love that part where he said, I don't want to win, I want to keep playing. You know, it's just so indicative of his character. It was all funny, all good stuff. I love how it kept being upped more and more crazy. The E thing, I think, was my favorite. It was so much fun to watch. I think I would have been okay if it didn't go anywhere serious. But the fact that it did go somewhere serious just elevated it to now this had a purpose and had a reason for happening. And the big twist was I was not expecting it to be that Barney actually met the mother months ahead of time. You know, Lily met the mother first. But you know, I didn't think Barney was going to be the next person to meet the mother, and I didn't think it was going to be in the past. So that was cool. It was unexpected. It was nice, and I love that we're getting to see the mother separately from Ted, so that we're getting to learn who she is, and not as opposed to just knowing her as the mother and Ted's wife. And what is so great, what I love about what they're doing with her character is she is strong without being abrasive. You know, there's a tendency, I think, in modern media to think that, oh, if a character has to be strong, it means they have to be confrontational, they have to be tough, they have to not show emotions, because emotions are weak. And when a character is very sensitive and very emotional, or even just very nice, very kind, very sympathetic, it still tends to be played off as this may be a good person, but they are a weak character. And what we're getting with the mother is, when she turns Barney down, she's very firm with him, but she's not rude. She's kind, but she's not soft. And that's a balance I don't see struck very often, so it was wonderful to see, and it made me want to see even more of her, so kudos, good job. Good job, writers of How I Met Your Mother, just making us all fall in love with this character. And now we really do want to see her end up with Ted, because we're seeing what a good person she is. There's one nitpick that I do have. The way she talks to Barney and the way he talks to her is not the way strangers typically talk to each other. She could have just turned him down and then walked away, but the fact that she hugged him and gave him advice. However, I will say about that, I don't think it's any coincidence that she looked as sad as she did. Like, she really looked down. And for her to give, for her to hug him and say, it's going to be okay, that's not the kind of advice that you give unless you've been there yourself. And I also don't think it's any coincidence that they made sure to remind us that she was in a relationship with somebody else at that time. I would be okay, if they never got back to explaining why she looked so sad at that time. I'd be fine with it, but I would love to know. I'd love to know why the directors told her to look so down. The other really great thing this episode did was, with her meeting Barney first, was, Barney, everything that Barney is kind of a front for this very vulnerable person. And he's very susceptible to armor-piercing questions. He can maintain that front as long as people are willing to go along with him, but the walls can crumble pretty easily, I think, when people don't. And maybe that feeds back into him being a magician, because when people are going along with the act, he kind of feeds off of that positive response and keeps going, but if he doesn't get the applause or he doesn't get the reaction that he's hoping for, I guess it kind of feels like, if it feels like it's not an audience to him, he starts to lose interest in the game, and he does become very open and emotional and vulnerable. And I think that's, again, what happened here with the mother just cutting right to the chase and seeing right through him. So for him to open up to her like that, he says, I'm going to take a chance on this girl, I'm going to tell her how I feel. And for her to say, that's not good enough, you have to pull out all the stops. And then that becomes the reason that he writes the Robin, because to Barney, that's what pulling out all the stops means. That's how he knows to be flashy in front of a woman. So he's gonna, I love that shot of him just going back through the playbook, and you see him writing down, you can see the thought process there. Because honestly, Barney's proposal to Robin is one of my least favorite things that the show has done so far. And this episode kind of fixed it for me. I still don't like how manipulative it was. Like, he really played on every single one of her insecurities and made her feel pretty bad before proposing to her. And I wish that it had just been more of like the flash and dazzle, and he could have been a little more sincere, and it had been the focus had been more on him and how he felt about her, as opposed to all these tricks to undermine her. Because I really do feel like it undermined her strength as an independent character. So I like it. It still bothers me. It still bothers me, but this episode made it better. The procession from funny to serious happened very naturally. I think that's the problem. The problem is you don't want to become too overbearing with your serious scenes. But this didn't. It was nice. It didn't feel out of the blue. It didn't feel like, oh, suddenly we need a serious ending. It didn't feel cheesy or corny. It felt very natural. And the thing is, How I Met Your Mother is good at creating an ending that is sweet and emotional without feeling contrived. And so it kind of surprised me that they were shying away from that serious ending this season, because I felt like, you've done it. You can do it. You've done it in the past, and that's part of why we love this show so much. And they did it again here. This is like back to basics of why I fell in love with the show in the first place. And it felt like I was watching a really good episode from a long time ago, which is brilliant. And then, it feeds right back into Ted's whole idea about destiny and right place at right time, that the mother, in giving this good advice to a total stranger, she's orchestrating her own destiny without even being aware that that's what she's doing. She's not only getting Robin and Barney together, but the reason that she and Ted even met was at Robin and Barney's wedding. Not only that, but they kind of implied in this episode that Ted would have gone on to pursue Robin if Barney hadn't proposed to her. And then he never would have met, never would have met the mother. So I love that nice little touch. There's a little bit of continuity in here where, last season Ted said that he was going to move to Chicago, but he didn't really give a reason. And then he said, I need to get away from Robin, but he didn't give a reason for why he picked Chicago specifically. And now we know why, because Hammond Brothers called him and offered him an architecture position. So I appreciated that continuity so much. It showed that, that there is still a continuing story here, that it's tying in now to things in the past, and it's going to tie into things in the future. There's, the locket is still up in the air. I still don't know how they're going to work out that, he went to LA and then came back before the wedding, and he still has feelings for Robin, but he's going to meet this girl at the wedding who's going to make him completely forget about Robin and fall head over heels for her. And they do seem like a good match. Like, that's the thing. It's not just that she's a strong character on her own. She does seem like the kind of person. And my mom said something I thought was so beautifully summed up why they work together. It's because we see them at the lighthouse at that moment, and when the mother says, it feels like going back in time, and Ted's like, that's exactly what I said. My mom said, I wrote this down because I thought it was so perfect. She said, when you see life the same way, it's easy to share life. And when you have the same philosophy and the same outlook, everything just kind of falls into place. And that's what we saw with them being on the lighthouse together. So, it just all the more made me want to see her actually meet Ted and then fall in love. I don't know where they're going to go from here, but this episode made me hope and trust that they do have a plan and that things are going to get better. This is just so perfect. It feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels like this is what I've been waiting for all season long. And I want to see it again right away. I want to see more. I would watch it over again. And that's the first episode this season so far that I felt that way about. And it kind of just makes everything else feel even more like filler. There were some good things about all the episodes leading up to this one, but I feel like what needed to be said could have been said in a lot less time. Yeah, still a lot of loose ends. There are still a lot of stories like James and the wedding ring. I still feel like there's more there. I'm not sure how they're going to wrap up the whole with Marshall and Daphne. I'm not sure where her character is going to go after this, because she is such a prominent part of the show now. I can't imagine they're just going to send her packing into the ether when her story is done. I feel like there's going to be some kind of resolution there. And then it kind of seemed like, Ted's mom wanted, oh gosh, what's his name? Clint. It seemed like she was sick of him and wanted him out of the house. It's like, there's a new story, really? But we still need to wrap so many things up. I don't know. It still seems like there's a lot in the air. However, this episode was so good, it did give me hope. I'm hoping the rest of the season is going to be up to par with Platonish. I'm hoping that set the standard for what we're going to see. Please let the rest of the episodes be as good as this one. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what you're hoping to see in the rest of the season. And as always, I'm eternally optimistic. Take care.